Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on today's webinar, your Giving Tuesday Game Plan. Giving Tuesday is slated to be the biggest charitable giving day of the year. Since 2012, this initiative has helped connect individuals, communities, nonprofit organizations around the world for one common purpose: to celebrate and encourage the spirit of giving. With more than $350 million expected to be donated to the causes tied to Giving Tuesday campaigns, we want to offer you a campaign game plan to help your organization stand out. We know those starting to promote their organization are probably promoting their campaigns now, raising more money, increasing awareness, and engaging new donors. So we hope that you enjoy today's presentation. And for your reference, we'll send the recording and slides to all registrants via email after the fact as well. We also want to encourage your participation today, so please submit any and all of your questions throughout the presentation into the questions box on your control panel, which you'll find on the right-hand side of your screen there. At the end of the webinar, we'll have some time for Q&A with our experts. Speaking of whom, let me introduce our panel of experts. We're going to first hear from Sean Kerr, who is the co-founder and chief operating officer of Cause Inspired Media, an organization working with nonprofits to help manage their digital advertising efforts. In his role, Sean serves as the liaison between nonprofits and Google. He is in charge of Google Ad grant procurement and Google Ads management. Next, we'll hear from Christy Noel, who is the Vice President of Digital Marketing Services here at Mobile Cause. And Christy advises and guides Mobile Cause customers with digital fundraising and donor engagement strategies, and has empowered countless customers to accelerate their efforts through the help of nonprofit technology, namely Mobile Cause. And they put together an information-packed agenda for you. So in today's event, we're going to cover Giving Tuesday key milestones and achievements, Giving Tuesday Google Ad grant strategizing, your Giving Tuesday game plan, and a successful Giving Tuesday case story. Okay, so before we dive in, I have a quick poll here I'm going to launch. And we're curious, have you conducted a Giving Tuesday fundraising campaign before? So yes or no, select from the options here on your screen and hit submit. Excellent. And again, this is a poll, so look for that interactive interface and select your response and hit that submit button. I see a couple chats came in. We're actually looking for participation via the poll interface. Awesome. So I'll leave this open for just a couple more moments. Going once, going twice. All right, I'm going to close this out. And I love it. Wow. So we actually have a 50-50 split between those of you that have and those of you that have not actually conducted Giving Tuesday campaigns. Awesome. So I'm going to use this as a way to pivot into Sean's presentation. So Sean, what do you think about these poll results? Is this common in your experience?
I think this lines up with, if we're looking at the overview of nonprofits, US-wide or worldwide, most people in the nonprofit world know about Giving Tuesday. But whether or not they've given a specific campaign besides just saying, hey, it's Giving Tuesday, you should donate, it really is about a 50-50 split. Are you actually putting together specific resources? Are you understanding what is compelling people to donate in this time of year and doing something specific for it? That takes a lot of extra effort, which I think really is a good place to start off. I want to jump in first off, and especially since we have a 50-50 split here in the room, I just want to get a super quick overview about what Giving Tuesday is, when it started, and why it should matter to your organization. As mentioned earlier, it was started in 2012. It's the Tuesday after Thanksgiving every year, and it is a pretty major event. It has happened every year since 2012 and is a pretty major social innovation as our world has become more digital and more online social. We've seen nonprofits gather together at this time to take advantage of that and to amplify their message. Instead of just one group putting out a message that we're doing this one event or that you should donate, you start seeing this amplified effect from people saying, I've donated, another person shared, you should donate, I was part of this. And that cascades, and you get a lot more, not only at one day, but you get more overall, because there's this communal feeling of getting something done. Now, for most nonprofits, this is a incredibly daunting season. It's incredibly busy, and it's really stressful. You're having to find out exactly how you're going to put together these campaigns. You're trying to get everything done by the end of the year. You're held to whatever you did last year and figuring out if it works. Did it work well? What should you change about this year? And if you're in the 50% of the room that has never done this before, you're starting from scratch. Figure out, what do we do here? Do we need landing pages? Do we need specialized content? What should we be doing physically and digitally? And luckily for those here today, we're going to talk through a game plan. Figure out how you do this. Get some really good tools, some really great strategies that have worked in the past, and really what's different this year. I'm going to focus in today on the Google Ad Grant side of things. That's really my focus, working with charities countrywide to focus in on digital strategies, but especially with this Google Ad Grant. Now, if you're not familiar with the Google Ad Grant, it is a program from Google where they give you credit to advertise in the search space on Google. Now, I'm going to assume everybody generally knows what that is for this presentation, but really want to tie into what's different this year. Now, historically, I've not seen the majority of nonprofits see success on Giving Tuesday in connection with the Google Ad Grant. This is not to say they've not seen success on Giving Tuesday or that they haven't seen success in the Google Ad Grant. Simply that the past search traffic has been dominated by a few big brands or paid ads outside of the grant program, taking up those top slots. And we have seen successes here with our campaigns for Google Ad Grants, but just not with every nonprofit. However, this year, I think a lot of those hurdles are going to either be behind us, or if you gather the right data, going to give us options to really show up and do a better job this year to get more nonprofits seeing more results tied to this one space, making sure you can show up. With that in mind, I want to talk through what that difference is. Now, starting January this year, Google launched some really cool new policies for the Google Ad Grant. The biggest of these, the biggest, most interesting thing is that previously you could only bid in Google's auction manually. You could go up to $2 per click, and it's a pay per click system. So you could bid up to $2, and that was your cutoff point. Now, in many scenarios, in many audiences or types of keywords you're going after, types of searches you want to show up for, that's plenty. But when you're in a really competitive space, you're talking about Giving Tuesday, you're talking about Donate. That maybe isn't enough, right? But Google has launched the ability to use their AI-driven bidding strategies. So you give up a little bit of control about what you want to bid in a given auction, in a given keyword that you're going after, but instead you can tie into what worked. So you give Google data about conversions, about what you wanted to happen on site. So it can start gathering and know, did this work? Did this ad lead to someone donating? Did this ad lead to someone downloading your PDF, right? One of those things, one of the things you want to happen, and you give that information back to Google, and then you can take advantage using one of 3 new AI-driven bidding systems: Maximize Conversions, Target Cost Per Acquisition, Target CPA, or Target Return on Ad Spend, Target ROAS. Now with these, they work differently. I think most nonprofits really, unless you're being really nuanced, you should focus in on Maximize Conversions. All it means is you have enough data to say, these are the things that matter, and within my budget, get me as many as you can. Get me as many people donating as you can within my given budget I've given that campaign. But it requires data. It requires you to have that information. So you need to start early, and you need to have that data going into Giving Tuesday so that the AI knows that you're important. Your information should show when people are looking for Giving Tuesday information. So it's not something you should just turn on the morning of Giving Tuesday and expect it to work. You need to track conversions, build up enough data, and then it will be effective when you turn it on. I think that's a really great strategy for us to go forward. This new information is a huge change for this. Now, what should we do when we're mapping out our grant strategy, when we're advertising in search? Now, it's going to come down to a couple things. It's going to come down to your landing page, the ads you write, and what you're bidding on, or making sure you're showing up for the right things. But to get these things right, you have to do a few things. You have to understand why someone would donate to you. And this is not a 2-sentence description of your program. It has to be the motivating factor that gets someone from A to B. It gets them from knowing who you are to actually giving you a donation to fund that program, fund that service. Now, once you understand that, once you figure out what that compelling point is, you need to articulate it. You need to tell your story in a compelling way. Tie it into your mission, explain your value add and your unique value you're adding to your community and to Giving Tuesday, because it needs to be tied to that specific moment. And use strong visuals. Visuals are not what gets people to your page. I absolutely don't skip on your text content. That's what makes you show up in search. But strong visuals are really important to get people to connect to what you're doing. Now, next is make sure that your website or your page has strong value. SEO matters, search engine optimization. It matters when someone's finding you organically, when they're just searching regularly and they're not advertising. But it also matters when Google is deciding when, if, and where to show any ad you've written, anything you're targeting specific searches, right? So making sure your content is laid out well, is organized well, and is compelling is very important. Now, finally, you have to get that content up early. Again, I'm reiterating from when we were talking about our last slide, but you have to have this information up as soon as you can so you can start building up data. You can understand, are people clicking with this? Are they getting it? Are they actively understanding it? And it lets you show up early and test things. You can test different messages. You can test how people are responding and make changes. And also give your ads a little bit of extra oomph, extra credibility, because you were up and you're saying that you're the right thing earlier rather than just launching day of. Now, there are other factors outside of your Google Ads account and outside your landing page that can make a big difference on how it performs. Let's highlight a few that you can affect yourself. So social media, obviously you should be promoting yourself on social media anyway, whether it's this campaign, whether it's Giving Tuesday, or whether it's just your everyday writing content, putting it on the web. It's important, but on this day especially, it's a social campaign, it's a social day. That's what amplifies the effectiveness of this campaign, is putting it through social. But a good campaign on that front can affect search results, demonstrating that people care about this page, they care about your organization generally, and that your organization and that content is connected to Giving Tuesday. So you're signaling to Google and to Bing and all the different search engines that your content is relevant, right? The next thing is to get in the news. This doesn't sound easy, but journalists are always looking for a new angle, a new idea, something that they can make their article or on your report stand out. If you can find something about your organization and its connection to Giving Tuesday, doing this will help with your organic results, but will also signal that your content is relevant, your organization is relevant, and Google should show your ads. It's connected to you, right? And finally, update your blog. Everything is not just about your final page on that landing page about Giving Tuesday. You need to signal early and often that your information is relevant. So a good blog can go a long way in showing your organization off to new people, highlighting successes or problems to your organization and your existing audience. As we approach Giving Tuesday, though, it gives us an opportunity to shift focus and build your case for why you stand out among all the other organizations vying for attention that day. It's really important to get that up early, have as much as you possibly can, and get it ready in time for Giving Tuesday. So definitely start now. Now, finally, before I hand off to getting you information about the rest of your game plan outside of your Google Ads and all that, just a quick summary of what we talked about. You need your information up. You need content, strong content up early. You need to have your ads written early and be prepared to understand what makes people care. Why do they care about you? And be able to communicate that in a short way, in a way that is compelling and digestible at the same time. And really just need to start off as quickly as possible to take advantage of this really strong social event, take advantage of the generosity of people that make real change in your community.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. That information was interesting and indeed helpful. Again, thank you. Next up, we're going to be hearing from Christy, so I'll go ahead and pass things over to you. All yours.
Great, thank you, and thank you, Sean, for that information. And I'm going to add a little more depth to the game plan, but reiterate a lot of the points that Sean made about getting in storytelling and visuals and all that stuff, such an important component of your Giving Tuesday campaign. So let's talk about the plan of the game plan. We've got about 77 days, I think it is, until Giving Tuesday, so we have time now to start putting together the components of your campaign, starting with your goals. And I know that this is not always the most exciting part of your campaign, but how do you know how well it performed if you don't know what you're measuring? So let's determine what you are measuring. And that could be a variety of metrics that doesn't have to actually be the total amount raised. And many of you have done campaigns, or 50% of you have done campaigns before, so you might have an idea of how much money you want to raise this year. Some of you might not have an idea, and that's okay. We don't actually recommend you put together an arbitrary goal if you don't have one, because you're going to be measuring against it and sharing your updates. And if it's not an achievable goal, that's not going to be a compelling story. So your goals can be related to the number of donors you bring into the organization, the number of gifts that you see come in. Maybe it's the number of new donors that you want to bring into the organization, or maybe you have a number that you'd like to achieve in a percentage of recurring gifts. So whatever works for you, or whatever your goals, write them down and establish them. So again, you can keep your constituencies updated on your success in achieving them. And just so you know, it's I think many of you probably have experienced this. Giving Tuesday, as Sean mentioned, is a very competitive day as far as getting out in front of messages, people, all the organizations are involved. So it's really hard to make for every organization to have a Giving Tuesday break the bank date. But it is an opportunity to create awareness and bring in new donors to the organization. So I always advise our clients to approach it that way and see how much awareness you can create and how many new donors you can bring into the organization, and use those to cultivate and nurture them to become long-term donors going forward. Then you need to identify your communication channels. So what will you use to communicate your Giving Tuesday campaign? This is not the time to try something new. So if you've never been on Snapchat, this is probably not the time to try it. So use your tried and true tools, but incorporate all elements of your communication channels. So email, text, social media, snail mail, phone calls, whatever you have in your arsenal, prepare to use those in your campaign. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. It's not an all social media or an all email. You're going to spread the wealth against all your communication channels. And you're going to put together a campaign calendar so that you're going to know when and how you're going to send these messages. So now that you have the time, put together your calendar and note every element of the campaign, and you're going to want to stick to it. This is not a campaign that you want to fly by the seat of your pants. You want to start planning early and start your communications early so you can reach as many people as possible and bring in all those gifts. But remember, not every communication is going to be an ask. You want to start your storytelling so you can have a compelling reason to get people excited about your organization and feel the passion and want to be a part of your organization and part of your success. You're going to make the asks on Giving Tuesday and closer too, but for your month ahead of time, you're going to start sharing information about your organization and the impact you're having. Do you have the ability to have a match or incentives? Maybe there's an organization or your board or a donor that's willing to match 1 for 1, or 25 cents for every dollar, something along those lines for all the money that's raised on Giving Tuesday. If there's a match opportunity, line that up now so you can incorporate that into your communications. Or maybe you have incentives. Maybe you have a mug or a hat or a shirt. It doesn't have to be something that has a cost to it. You might say have naming rights of the next litter of puppies, or you can lead the 5K, or have the best seat in our next gala, something along those lines. But if you have anything to help drive additional gifts or higher amounts for those gifts, then line those up in part of your planning. Create your website or your donation form. And you don't have to make those live now, but create them now so you can focus on other aspects of your campaign. You might want to segment your donor list. Not all donors are the same, and you don't have to communicate to them as if they are. So if you have different levels of giving or behavioral or activity or how they're involved in your organization, you could segment those donor lists and then plan to do your communications targeted to them. So you might have a donation page that has higher amounts as your suggested donations for those donors who are in a higher giving bracket. Or you might have a volunteer aspect of a form if you know somebody's already been really active in your communication. Maybe they don't give as much money, but they would want to volunteer. So you might have a communication channel that talks about volunteer opportunities as well as giving opportunities. So take it in your planning, you can sit back and look at your donor list and see how you want to break them up and how you might communicate with them differently. And then you want to have a web-friendly donation page. Make sure it's mobile. Make sure, it works on mobile and that it's responsive. Last year's Giving Tuesday, 35% of online gifts were made on mobile, and that number is going to be higher this year. So make sure everything that you put together for your online giving is responsive and works well on a computer and on a phone or a tablet. You want to make it as easy as possible for donors to give online and on mobile, and you don't want to give them a reason to quit mid-donation because the donation page didn't look right or didn't react properly, or it's too small to read. So you've put together your plan. Now it's time to produce the content and the support materials to support your campaign. The first key aspect is your storytelling, and Sean talked about the importance of having a compelling story as well. So the founder of Pixar once said, when you tell people facts, they criticize. When you tell them stories, they listen. So your story is so important to get donors engaged and on board to giving with you. So you have the time to put together your compelling story. Start now so you're not rushed. And you want to make sure that you are not just telling people what you do, but you're sharing stories of how your organization makes a difference. So you could spotlight a particular person and how he or she has been transformed, or their life has changed, or they've recovered from an injury or an illness, or the number of puppies you've saved and how. So really put together compelling stories to get people emotionally invested so they want to be a part of your success and they want to root for you and be involved in either giving or volunteering. And you're going to use these stories throughout your Giving Tuesday campaign. You'll want to put together some videos as well. Social media puts a premium on videos. So if you create videos to share your story, then you'll put them as part of your campaign calendar leading up to Giving Tuesday. Again, these don't have to be asks. You're going to save your asks for on Giving Tuesday, but you'll have all these. You want to have some short videos and even use the story feature of social media to share about your organization and your impact. They don't have to be fancy, high quality, expensive productions at all. In fact, selfie videos are great and people love the organic nature of them. So get out your phones and start making your own selfie videos. You can also capture your team in the field helping people. So take video of if you're feeding the homeless or you're packing a truck with first aid materials. Maybe you're helping flood victims or you're walking rescue dogs. Whatever you are doing and your group is doing out in the field, you can capture that. As long as it's authentic to you, you can put together a short video and share that as part of your campaign leading up to Giving Tuesday. And then come Giving Tuesday, you can have ask videos, and those can either be from the executive director of your organization or someone impacted by the organization who's benefited from all the work, who might be making an ask on behalf of your organization. Images are powerful too, so always have an image or a video with your posts, and start working on your image library now. If you don't have pictures, go out in the field and take them. You don't want to be scrambling at the last minute looking for an image. So, you know, it's a great opportunity if you have volunteers, who some people might have an eye with a camera or want to get some volunteer hours and love doing photography. You don't have to be responsible for taking them all, but you can utilize other people's expertise and get them involved in your organization. Design your email communications. Designing an email always takes longer than expected, and it always takes a lot longer than it takes to read it. So you can get started now by putting together the layout and the design and making sure you have all your content and your images and the links and you're going to put to your website or your donation form. You don't have to send it. In fact, most email service providers have a pre-schedule option, so you can actually put it together and set it to send at the date and time you want. But this is the time now to start thinking about what is that going to say. And the beauty of putting together your email and your text content now is if you do it all at the same time, you'll have a nice flow from your storytelling up to your ask, and each component will lead from the next one and tell the story from email to email or text to text. So it's nice if you have the ability to do it all at the same time rather than quickly writing an email and a text and then doing another one a couple days later. With your text messages, remember you want to do at least 3 messages before an ask. So you want to lead up and get people warmed up regarding your organization and what you're doing before you go for an ask. Again, through texting and email, you can segment your list to target your donors based on various criteria. And those text messages or email messages can be a little different based on what you're trying to say to those donors, whether it's leading them to a different donation page or a different activity or getting additional information from them. And through MobileCause, you can pre-schedule your text to send. So it's a busy time of year. When you're going to be sending these, especially over the Thanksgiving holiday, you can go into the platform and set them all up and have them ready to go, and it will automatically send on your behalf, and you can still be enjoying your turkey dinner on Thanksgiving. And then ambassadors. You'll want to put together a team of ambassadors for a couple of reasons. This is a really powerful group who can do great things for your organization. We all know peer-to-peer fundraising is a great way to expand the reach of your organization. You've probably heard the statistic that on average, a peer-to-peer fundraiser brings in 8 donations, 6 of which are completely new donors to the organization. So that is a great way to increase your Giving Tuesday dollars by having a team of supporters who do peer-to-peer fundraising on your behalf. But it can be more than that. You don't have to just have ambassadors who are fundraising directly for you. I mean, that's awesome if they do, but you can utilize this army of supporters in a really powerful way as well by getting them to help spread the message. So for example, if you had 20 ambassadors, preferably with all of them having a large social media following, and you provide them with copy for 3 different messages about your organization and ask them to post on their social media on Giving Tuesday, imagine the impact of those 60 messages, 3 messages for 20 ambassadors, then whether against your 60 messages. I they're going to have a whole different following, a whole new set of people, and there's eyeballs to see those messages. So start looking now about who can you bring into the organization, who's passionate about what you're doing, and ask them to be a part of this important day. And all they have to do is send out a couple of social media posts, and you're going to give them the content with them to, of course, tweak it to their voice. But they don't even have to write anything from scratch. You're going to give them the blueprint to get started. And the impact that that can have would be significant. Plus, they're going to feel really good about themselves by helping you achieve your success. But always remember that when in those messages, especially if they're sending them on Giving Tuesday, that there is a way for anybody to see that, to donate to your organization. So we've got the plan, we've got all of our materials produced. Now it's time to promote. We're getting up to almost game day, Giving Tuesday. So how are we going to promote this campaign? As I mentioned earlier, you're going to use your multi-channel communications. So every way that you communicate with your constituents, you're going to utilize. So text, email, social media, snail mail, phone calls, megaphone, whatever is on your plate. Now's the time to get it involved into Giving Tuesday. Remember, there's a lot of messaging taking place on Giving Tuesday. Nonprofits are all doing the same thing. So you need to make sure that you keep it consistent and you have a high frequency to break through the clutter of all the other messages so yours is seen. Assume your audience will not see every one of your messages. I know that in working here at MobileCause with my clients, a lot of people are hesitant because they're afraid they're going to feel like they're spamming their donors and their volunteers. But there's so much messaging going on that day, the likelihood of all of them seeing all of them is not particularly high. So I say don't worry about that. And for the few that happen to might see them all, your content's going to be compelling. So it's going to be okay. They're not going to mind. Make sure you tell your story visually. As we said multiple times, both Sean and myself, include images or videos along with your post. People retain messages better through images than they do through reading, and they get more emotionally involved when they have a visual rather than reading. So whether it's a video, whether it's a story, an Instagram story, or whether it's an image, make sure you include that as part of all of your communications. So let's talk quickly about social media and the frequency, because this is a big issue a critical component of your success is to post much more frequently on Giving Tuesday than you would on any normal given day. We look back at MobileCause customers last year that raised the most on Giving Tuesday, and they posted a lot on social media. So again, please don't worry about spamming your donors. Thanks to the algorithms of social media, most people are not going to see every one of those posts. But in order to be seen, at least have a few of those posts seen, you're going to have to post more frequently than you might otherwise do. So crank up the number of social media posts. And not all of them have to have an ask. So you can keep your storytelling, provide donor spotlights, let your followers know how you're doing, maybe provide campaign updates where we've gotten 50 donations, we're trying to get to 100, help us achieve our goal. Or we've raised $500, we're trying to get 1,000, help us reach our goal. Whatever your goal is, you want to share updates, and not just once, share a couple times throughout the day. And if you're not very close to achieving your goal, that's okay, share that as well, because sometimes that will spur additional donations from the same people that want to help you succeed. Nobody wants to see you fail. They all want to help you succeed. If they can do that by giving you another $20, they might do it, and you might see that gift number increase from the same people or people who maybe have been on the sidelines but now are jumping in because they can help get you to your goal and see you succeed. Make it personal for your donors by thanking and acknowledging them publicly. We always recommend here to tag your donors in social media posts. And one way you can get permission to do that on Mobile Cause is you can put a checkbox in the donation form to say, can we acknowledge you in social media? And they can opt in to do that. And now when you tag them in your social media posts, it will appear within their social media feed. So now all of their friends and family are going to see your post with their tag, and they're going to get acknowledged for being a donor and being part of your success, and their friends and family are going to see that. And you have a whole new set of eyes seeing your organization and what you're trying to do. And thank your volunteers and your ambassadors too. It doesn't have to just be your donors, but thank you all the other people who help you get to this point and in your campaign. And they're going to be more motivated to help you succeed if they see their name tagged or on the social media post or in an email. If you don't have permission to tag, you can also just use first names, and people will recognize their first name in it. I've often done that. Put first names of people who donated under a specific campaign. And if there's a common name and Kathy knows she donated, she's probably going to know that that's the Kathy that donated. Use your Giving Tuesday hashtag and unselfies. These are specific to Giving Tuesday, not just to your organization, but it's a great way to be found in social media by using the Giving Tuesday hashtag in all your posts and communication. And if you're unfamiliar with unselfies, that came about from Giving Tuesday, and that's when somebody takes a selfie, but they're holding a piece of paper that says, I'm supporting or I'm giving to, and the name of the organization. And then they post that for all their friends to see. And you can encourage people to take an unselfie and post it on your social media platform. That gives you more content, and it gives you, again, more eyeballs because the person posting it is going to be sharing it on their social media as well. If you go to givingtuesday.org, they have tools, they have logos, and they have a database of organizations supporting Giving Tuesday, so you can register if you want people to be able to find you there. But if you want to incorporate Giving Tuesday logo and you don't know where to go, givingtuesday.org has them, and information about the hashtag as well, and unselfies. So Giving Tuesday doesn't end on November 27th. Now you have a whole new database of new donors you want to nurture and cultivate to make them repeat donors. So start by thanking them. First-time donors who get a personal thank you within 48 hours are 4 times more likely to give a second gift. So what's the easiest thing you can do to increase the likelihood of a second gift by 4 times? Write them a thank you, personal note, thank you note. You can incorporate your board members to do that, or if you have people in your organization, maybe if you work with children or at a hospital, you might get to have recruit some volunteers to make some cute thank you cards for you or write out the thank you cards. In my work with Girls on the Run, we often ask the girls to write thank you notes and send them to our donors. So that's a fun way and a personal way to thank donors and volunteers. You also want to share campaign updates after Giving Tuesday. So share how the money is being used. What changes have you been able to implement as a result of the gifts that were raised on Giving Tuesday? Tell the story of someone whose life was changed as a result of Giving Tuesday. You'll also want to tell them, that you achieved your goals or you came up short a little bit, but you're super excited and really appreciative, and then lead into all the ways that that money is going to make a difference. You can spotlight your donors. Create a section in your newsletter with a short donor spotlight, or maybe once a week you do a donor spotlight on your social media. It doesn't have to be a long dissertation, but you can put your donor's picture and a little background and maybe a quote of why they are passionate about your organization. The nice thing about that is you get the opportunity to really showcase somebody who's important to your organization, but then they're most likely going to want to share it with their friends and family, and again, opens up the new potential people to hear about your organization, because they're going to be sharing the acknowledgement of and the overview of themselves. Continue to cultivate these donors in the coming months and years, especially if you have a large number of new donors. I really recommend segmenting these new donors from those who have given before, and you might have a little different cultivation path for them. And because they're not going to be particularly familiar with the organization if they're a first-time giver, so you might have a email campaign or social media that's really targeted to new donors, introducing them more in depth about your organization so that they become long-term donors. And remember, people and social media algorithms love video. So you can create short videos with shout outs and thank yous, post a story of your campaign success using the story feature of social media. Great opportunity to continue to have fun content with images and campaign recap. And you can use all of this as an opportunity to keep your organization top of mind as you lead into year-end giving, because Giving Tuesday just rolls right nicely into year-end giving. So here's the opportunity to acknowledge and thank for Giving Tuesday and keep the ball rolling so that these donors become year-end givers as well. So Giving Tuesday, it's a great opportunity to create awareness, bring in new donors, and receive gifts. But having and implementing a cohesive plan will not only minimize your own personal stress during a particularly busy and stressful time, but it can set you up for achieving your goals and lay the groundwork for long-lasting relationships with long-term donors. So what does this look like in practice? We have worked with an organization last year, Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles, and they had a couple of challenges that we addressed. One, they didn't think that their Giving Tuesday participation the previous year had been as high as it should have been, and they thought that based upon knowing their donor base, that the average individual donation was a little lower than where they thought it could be. So they worked with our digital marketing services team, and we put together a messaging strategy that was really focused on illustrating the impact the organization can have through gifts. We put together a 4-week multi-channel campaign that included email, online, mobile, and social media. And we started with Giving Tuesday and ended with year-end giving. And the ultimate results were that they had doubled the number of donors that they reached for Giving Tuesday 2017. The amount of donations tripled from the previous year, and the average donation amount doubled from the previous year. So the messaging combined with the multi-channel campaign and getting started 4 weeks before Giving Tuesday all combined to generate great success for them. And I love that they said it was a total game changer. Very proud of that. So one aspect that's new with MobileCause for Giving Tuesday 2018, we are giving you a sneak preview. You guys don't even know how lucky you are that we hadn't even promoted that you're going to get this sneak preview of our new donor wall and event thermometer. And this is a redesign of our current tools, but with some new feature aspects that we're really excited about, and we think it's going to make it much more exciting and increase engagement. And one thing I want to point out is that this campaign thermometer can be used for virtual campaigns as well as for events. What's new is we not only have have a countdown clock, so it will count down to how much time is left in your campaign, and it's got milestone animation options, which I'm going to show you here in a minute. So you can spotlight particular donors, and if you have hit a certain milestone, it'll trigger some really fun animation. So you can see the donor list goes across the screen. So as people donate, they'll be able to see their name. And if you have any particular donors you want to spotlight, when they give their donation, you can do a spotlight with a video or a picture and a thank you message. And then in this case, when we hit the 50% milestone, we're gonna see heart confetti drop from the sky and acknowledge that we're halfway to our goal. And again, this can be used at live events, but also for virtual campaigns. So it can be used for your Giving Tuesday and get people really excited for being key donors and seeing their picture or their video, generate excitement with the countdown clock and how much time to achieve their goal, and to get people excited to get more engagement in your campaign. So we're really excited to be able to show that to you, and we'll be providing more updates as we launch this exciting new feature of MobileCause. And Alex, I think I'm out of time, and I've covered everything that I've got, so I'm going to send it back to you.
Indeed. Thank you, Christy. Thanks for sharing such valuable information. And I really like that heart confetti. It's a shower of love. And a quick reminder to our audience, if you haven't yet, please submit any questions you have into the questions panel on your control menu there. And before we jump into Q&A, I have one more poll here I'm going to launch. And the question is, what has been the biggest challenge you've faced so far on Giving Tuesday? So I'm going to launch this poll and go ahead and select from the polling interface which best fits your greatest challenge that you've faced so far regarding Giving Tuesday. Excellent. Leave this open for another 20 seconds or so. We have just under half the audience voting. Awesome. And the options are donor burnout. So how do I get my donors to keep giving? Creating a successful campaign with limited resources. Making my nonprofit stand out on Giving Tuesday. And expanding my reach to new donors. All right, so let's see. I'll go ahead and close this out, and I'll share the results with everyone. So it looks like the majority of votes fell into that camp of creating a successful campaign with limited resources. Excellent. Well, hopefully in today's presentation, you gained some new tools to help you overcome that difficulty. Awesome. All right, so let's switch gears for a few minutes here and answer some questions that folks may have. Let's see. Our first question here is going to be for Sean. Can you tell me more about tracking conversions?
Yeah, I definitely can. And I think I'll jump in with that and give a little bit more context about the Google Ad Grant itself. I got word from some of the organizers that there's a few other questions in there about people just not really knowing about the program. I think it's a good opportunity to explain them both together. I'm used to, most of the time I talk about the grant, it is to people that have hired my own company to manage or procure it for them. So a little practice on that. But the Google Ad Grant itself is a credit of $10,000 a month in credit to advertise directly on Google.com. Now it comes with its caveats, it comes with challenges, but it's a great amount of credit to actually get your name out there, advertise your programs, and advertise events like Giving Tuesday and your participation in them. Now, if you have no idea how to do anything with digital advertising, that's okay. We help people, and there are other groups out there that do this. Google this year launched a program they're calling the Certified Professionals, which is a list. We were part of the first, I think, 8 during a pilot, and I think it's expanded to about 15 organizations worldwide. And we can get a link out there to show where that is and how you can find somebody to help you with your grant. But to tie that into what we were talking about earlier about performance, about these new AI bidding, and about conversions, and what are they, what are you tracking, how do you do that? There's a lot of different ways to do that. A conversion is really just anything you wanted to track, anything you find of value. A couple of key examples is people clicking on your donate button, people actually finishing the donation process. If you have on-site tracking, you can do that with. Maybe it's downloading a PDF. Maybe it's filling out a newsletter sign-up form, something where you're getting some tangible assets and tangible value. You can do this with plethora of different ways, whether it's Google Analytics. Many platforms will connect directly with that. If it's you're using systems a little harder to work with, maybe you're going to use your own code, right? You can get a developer involved to track things through Google Ads conversion tracking. My favorite way is with Google Analytics, because then you can tie in all your information. You can know whether your social campaigns are working. You can know whether your Google Ads campaigns are working. You can know whether your email campaigns are working in a lot of different contexts to each other. So that's my long-winded answer to your simple conversion tracking question.
No, I appreciate that. And indeed, there were a lot of questions regarding Google Ad Grants and nonprofits involvement. So thanks for kind of using that as a jumping off point. Cool. So let's see, another question here. This one's for Christy. Can you tell us a bit more about multi-channel strategy? I know I should be doing it, but it's really intimidating for me and my small group of volunteers.
Sure, happy to. And on the poll question that, a lot of people are challenged by the limited resources. The nice thing about Giving Tuesdays, you don't need to have a lot of resources to make a successful campaign. It's using a multi-channel strategy to get your message out. And that is where you incorporate all of your communication channels, but most of the communication channels have the tools available to pre-schedule. So even if you're a team of one, you don't have to be sitting on Giving Tuesday trying to figure out how to send an email and post 10 social media posts and respond to social media and send your text. You can have everything created and use Facebook to pre-schedule. There's an option to set a time and a date, and you select those for your posts. And I do recommend you use Facebook to do that and not another tool, because you'll get priority if you use Facebook to do your scheduling rather than some of the other scheduling tools out there. And you can pre-schedule your emails and your text as well. So have everything put together. But I would highly recommend you use those tools and to use all the multi-channel tools then rather than feel overwhelmed and only use a single or two-channel strategy to communicate.
And that's actually a good lead-in for this next question for Sean. What do you feel is the best strategy for nonprofits with Google Ads? Should it be kind of a 50-50 split with Google Ads and Facebook Ads, especially because Giving Tuesday is more of a social campaign?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty nuanced strategy that needs to be deployed. And with Google Ads, as far as money goes, you don't have to spend your money there. You can use the Google Ad Grant for that and make sure you're getting out there that way. So I would say most of your cash dollars in this sense would, for this particular campaign, would go into social, into Facebook, getting your name out there. If you're talking about time, I would spend the most of your time doing exactly what we've been talking about through this webinar of getting your content ready, getting your emails ready, and making your overall strategy prepped. And then during the week of the month of before and after, probably a little bit more of a focus on your Facebook side of things, because it's a little bit more dynamic in that moment, whereas you can get a lot more prepped with the Google Ads beforehand.
Interesting. All right, let's see. Another question here for Christy. Can you tell us more about digital marketing services? Can you do the whole plan and help me execute my Giving Tuesday plan?
Yes, the digital marketing services team here at Mobile Cause is designed and set up to put together the campaigns and set them up for our customers within Mobile Cause. And for Giving Tuesday, that includes, we'll provide the campaign calendar, we'll put together all the donation pages and forms, any volunteer. If you're doing any peer-to-peer fundraising, we can incorporate that too. And we'll provide you with content. So if you're a smaller organization and you really are tapped for resources, we will craft social media messages, text messages, and emails for you to incorporate into your campaign, and we can set some of that up for you. So we utilize the best practices of fundraising and MobileCause, and we've worked on numerous Giving Tuesday campaigns in the past. So you'll get our expertise and our experience of what's worked and what's not worked to do a lot of the legwork and the heavy lifting for you and implement that. And then you can, focus on recruiting your ambassadors and your supporters and working with your donors in real time on the day.
Right on. Cool. So let's see, one more question here for Sean. Do you have any advice for getting in the news and updating my blog? We have a really small staff that still want to make a big impact, and we don't know too much about PR strategy.
Yeah, totally. I think these two ideas, concepts can be really combined in an impactful way. So first off, reaching out to the news is daunting, but it's really, really incredibly important. And journalists want these stories and this information as much as you want to be featured. Their job is to find something to put on the news that's going to get people engaged. And if you can give them something that is compelling, again, back to that telling your story that we've all been talking about here today, if you have that information, call them, email them, even Facebook message them, find reporters from your local news station, your local newspaper, and just get them on the phone. They want to talk to you, and they're not going to be, you may find one person that's in a bad mood, but most of them want to talk to you. They want that news story. And once you have that in the works, once you have that conversation going and the news stories starting to come out, do a blog about how you're featured in the news, right? That's something worth talking about. And you can talk about your own stories, your own success stories, your own challenges in context with something that's already in the news, you and your story, and get them all together, and then you have one campaign tied to something that is exponentially growing as you talk about.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, well, thanks everyone. If you have questions that were not answered today, I know that there were a lot of good questions coming in. Just take note of those and email them over to marketing@mobilecause.com, and we can follow up with you offline. Now, if what you've heard today interests you, you may be happy to hear that we're offering a promotion on our advanced plan package. So for a limited time, you'll be able to sign up for the Mobile Cause Advanced Plan at $383 per month. This includes 3 campaign setups from our digital marketing services experts. So if limited resources are hindering your Giving Tuesday campaign efforts, sign up today to get help from our experts. We also have a free personalized demo for you. So you'll be assigned a fundraising expert who will focus on specific goals and showcase exactly how you can reach them. So if you're interested in that, you're welcome to schedule your demo today. Simply fill out the form that you'll see once you exit today's webinar, and we'll help get that set up with you. And as always, visit us at mobilecause.com to view pricing, watch a 4-minute tour, or access our free fundraising resources, or just feel free to give us a call at 888-661-8804. And with that, I'd like to offer up a huge thank you once again to today's presenters, and also thanks to each of you in the audience for attending. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and good luck with your efforts for Giving Tuesday. Bye for now.